From the road, this house looks like it has absolutely nothing to hide. A long wall of matte black corrugated steel. No giant picture windows facing the street. No obvious suburban front porch. No dramatic entrance announcing that someone spent a fortune on the inside. In fact, if you drove past it without knowing what was there, you might assume it was a luxury agricultural building or some kind of commercial warehouse. And that is exactly the reaction the design was meant to create. Because behind that quiet steel exterior is a 4,800 square foot Barndominium with something you almost never see inside a modern steel frame home. 2 private courtyards carved into the middle of the house. Open the massive thermal oak front door, and the warehouse illusion disappears. Instead of a hallway, you're looking into an open-air stone courtyard. There's a living olive tree at the center, water moving through the landscape, and glass walls rising 18 feet toward the sky. Then keep walking toward the rear of the home, and something even stranger happens. There's another courtyard. This one is quieter and more private, wrapped by the primary suite and home office. So why would anyone cut 2 enormous holes into a perfectly efficient steel building? That question is where this entire design gets interesting. Because when we first proposed the idea, the immediate reaction from structural engineers was essentially, don't do it. They warned that 2 large openings through the center of a clear-span structure could complicate the framing, increase costs, and create major problems for heating, cooling, and weather control. But the ancient idea behind the design had already solved a surprisingly similar problem thousands of years ago. Instead of putting every window on the outside, the house could turn inward. And that simple shift changes almost everything. In this episode of Barndo Dreams, we're going to break down how an architectural idea that is thousands of years old can be adapted to a modern steel-frame barndominium, why it solves the privacy versus daylight problem, how the floor plan actually works, and where the design can either save money or become dangerously expensive if you get it wrong. But before we open the blueprint, there's one problem with modern barndominiums that makes this ancient idea suddenly look much smarter. If you enjoy seeing unusual house designs broken down from the architecture to the actual planning logic, subscribe to Barndo Dreams and turn on notifications. Now let's look at the flaw this design is trying to fix. Before we go any further, look at that exterior again and make a guess. Would you rather have a barndominium with huge windows facing the outside or private windows facing a hidden courtyard? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to see how this unusual layout actually works room by room, stay with me. Because the second courtyard is where this design goes from interesting to seriously clever. Here's the strange contradiction at the heart of a modern barndominium. The thing that makes a barndo attractive, that enormous clear-span shell, can also become one of its biggest design weaknesses. A steel or post-frame structure can give you a huge open interior without filling the floor plan with load-bearing walls. On paper, that's almost the perfect blank canvas. But then you have to answer one difficult question. How do you bring natural light deep into a giant rectangular building without turning the entire house into a fishbowl? Take a typical 60 by 80 foot barndominium. If you want the rooms inside to feel bright and connected to the outdoors, the obvious solution is to start adding more glass to the exterior walls. Larger windows, giant sliding doors, perhaps entire walls of glass. It looks incredible in a rendering, but real life is different. Those windows also face roads, neighbors, driveways, equipment, weather, and anyone passing by the property. Suddenly the dream of a bright, open home comes with a privacy problem. You can solve it with expensive shades, automated blinds, landscaping, privacy walls, and carefully positioned windows. But then ask yourself a simple question. What was the point of installing all that glass if the blinds stay closed most of the time? And the opposite approach isn't much better. Reduce the exterior windows to protect privacy, and the center of the barndo becomes the problem. The deeper rooms lose daylight. Corridors become darker. Interior spaces can start feeling less like a home and more like the middle of a warehouse. Architects have plenty of ways to fight that problem. Clear-story windows, skylights, glass corridors, courtyards attached to the outside, and complicated L-shaped plans. But many of those solutions add another problem. More roof intersections, more complicated drainage, more exterior corners, and more places where construction details have to be perfect. So instead of asking, how can we put more windows on this building? We asked a completely different question. What if the windows didn't need to face the outside world at all? That's when the ancient courtyard idea comes back into the story. For thousands of years, homes in hot and crowded regions used inward-facing courtyards to create something that modern open-concept houses still struggle to balance. Daylight, outdoor space, ventilation, and privacy in the same floor plan. The courtyard becomes the protected outdoor room. The rooms face inward toward it, instead of exposing themselves to the street. And suddenly, the Barndominium doesn't need to choose between light and privacy. It can have both. But there's still a major question left unanswered. What happens when you put two of these courtyards inside one massive steel shell? That's where the floor plan gets really interesting. Before steel frames, smart HVAC systems, or modern prefab construction, architects had already solved a problem that today's Barndominium designers still struggle with. How do you get abundant natural light without sacrificing privacy? The answer wasn't more windows. It was turning the house inward. In ancient Rome, wealthy homeowners built domus residences with surprisingly private exterior walls facing busy streets. Instead of opening every room toward the outside world, the home directed light, air, and daily life toward an interior courtyard known as an impluvium. Thousands of miles away, ancient Chinese architects developed the Siheyuan, a courtyard-centered compound where rooms wrapped around a protected garden. Different civilizations, different climates, different building techniques, but the architectural principle was almost identical. Protect the outside, open the inside, and that raises a fascinating question. What happens if you take that ancient strategy and place it inside one of the most cost-efficient modern building types available today? A steel frame Barndominium. That's where this design gets interesting. Instead of treating the Barndominium as one giant open box, we carved two private outdoor spaces directly into the floor plan. The result isn't just a house with two courtyards. It's a completely different way of organizing space, light, privacy, and movement. And once you see how the layout works, you'll understand why this ancient idea might actually solve one of the biggest problems with modern Barndominium design. Now let's break down the floor plan, because this is where the concept stops sounding ancient and starts looking surprisingly modern. The exterior remains a simple 60 by 100-foot rectangle. That's intentional. A straightforward outer shell means fewer complicated corners, simpler framing, and a much cleaner structural system. Instead of spending money making the exterior shape complicated, the design puts the architectural drama inside the walls. Now divide that large rectangle into three major zones. And separating those zones are two completely different courtyards. Zone 1, the social courtyard. From the driveway, the building still appears private and almost industrial. The exterior wall remains mostly closed toward the road, with no giant collection of windows revealing everything happening inside. But walk through the entrance, and the experience changes immediately. You arrive at Courtyard 1, the social atrium. It's approximately 20 by 20 feet, open directly to the sky, with polished concrete pavers, a Japanese maple at the center, subtle landscape lighting, and floor-to-ceiling glass surrounding the interior spaces. To one side is the great room, dining area, and kitchen. Across from it are the guest spaces and media lounge. And here's the clever part. Instead of relying on exterior windows to bring daylight deep into the house, the rooms borrow light from the courtyard. Morning light enters from one direction. Afternoon light shifts across another. And because the courtyard is surrounded by glass, even rooms deeper inside the structure can maintain a visual connection with the outdoors. You're getting light without giving up privacy. Zone 2, the transition gallery. But the designers didn't simply connect every room together. Between the social areas and the private part of the house is a deliberate transition zone. A glass-lined gallery with acoustic wood detailing creates a psychological boundary between the two halves. It's more than a hallway. It's the moment where the house changes personality. The closer you get to the rear of the property, the quieter and more private everything becomes. And that leads to the second courtyard. Zone 3, the private courtyard. At the back of the home is Courtyard 2, the private garden. Unlike the social courtyard, this one is designed around relaxation and personal space. The primary bedroom, luxury bathroom, home office, and private gym all face inward toward this protected garden. Imagine waking up, sliding open a glass wall, and stepping directly from your bedroom into an outdoor space that feels completely detached from the surrounding property. A private garden, an outdoor shower, a small plunge pool, no road immediately outside the window, no constant view of neighbors, no need to keep curtains closed all day. The architecture itself becomes the privacy system, and that's the real power of the double courtyard concept. You don't have to choose between natural light and privacy. The floor plan creates both. But there's a problem, and it's a big one. You can't simply cut two giant openings into a steel building and expect everything to work. A conventional barndominium relies on long structural spans, carrying the roof from one exterior wall to the other. Now introduce an open-air courtyard into the middle. Suddenly, those interior edges become exposed to weather. The roof structure has to change. The drainage system has to change. The waterproofing strategy has to change. And if any of those details are handled incorrectly, your beautiful courtyard can become a very expensive water management problem. So how do you make the concept work? The answer is a hybrid structural system. The main building uses rigid steel frames around the exterior perimeter, maintaining the strength and efficiency of the original barndominium shell. Around the courtyard openings, engineered timber posts and glulam beams create a secondary structural system. Think of it as creating a strong frame around each opening instead of simply removing pieces of the roof structure. But structural support is only half the challenge. The bigger question is, where does all the rainwater go? Because when you put an open courtyard inside a building, the sky becomes part of your floor plan. Every storm now has somewhere to land. So the courtyard needs its own engineered drainage system. Below the pavers and landscaping, a dedicated drainage layer can collect incoming water and move it toward a controlled discharge point. Waterproof membranes protect surrounding construction. Drainage channels manage surface runoff. And where conditions require it, backup pumping systems can provide another layer of protection. Even the roof geometry matters. Instead of allowing water to randomly fall toward the courtyard edges, the surrounding roof sections can be carefully pitched toward dedicated internal gutters and downspouts. The goal is simple. Let the courtyard stay open to the sky without allowing the weather to take control of the house. And that's the part most people never see when they look at a beautiful architectural rendering. The courtyard may look effortless, but underneath that stone, glass, steel, and landscaping is an entire system designed to make the idea actually work. Here's where this design starts doing something we didn't expect. At first, adding all that glass around two open-air courtyards seemed like a guaranteed way to make the heating and cooling bills worse. More glass usually means more heat gain in summer and more heat loss in winter. So during the design stage, the expectation was simple: beautiful courtyard, higher energy bill. But the calculations pointed in the opposite direction. The double courtyard layout could actually reduce the home's mechanical cooling demand when the orientation, shading, insulation, glazing, and ventilation strategy are designed correctly. And the reason is almost nothing to do with expensive technology. It starts with the microclimate created inside the courtyards. During hot weather, the exterior shell takes the punishment from the sun, but the living spaces aren't opening directly toward that exposed environment. Instead, many of the interior windows face shaded stone, vegetation, and protected outdoor space. That changes the temperature immediately around the glass. Then comes the clever part. Low-level operable openings can bring cooler air into the living spaces, while higher openings or clear-story vents allow rising warm air to escape. It's the basic stack effect. Warm air rises, escapes through higher openings, and draws replacement air through lower openings. No complicated machine is creating that movement. The building itself is helping move the air. During mild spring and fall weather, that strategy could allow the mechanical cooling system to run far less, depending on the local climate and how the house is operated. And this is exactly where the ancient courtyard concept starts looking surprisingly modern. The same basic principle that helped ancient courtyard homes manage heat and airflow can still inform passive design today. Only now it's combined with modern insulation, high-performance glazing, air sealing, and mechanical systems. Then winter introduces another advantage. The concrete slab isn't just the surface you walk on. With properly designed radiant heating, That mass can store and release heat over time. When low-angle winter sunlight reaches the courtyard and passes through high-performance glazing, some of that solar energy can be absorbed by the thermal mass of the floor. The slab warms gradually during the day and can release that stored heat later. So the courtyard isn't simply an architectural feature. It's part window, part garden, part ventilation system, and potentially part thermal strategy. But does all this architectural cleverness actually make financial sense? That's where the numbers get interesting. Forget the renderings for a second. Forget the olive trees, the glass walls, and the dramatic courtyard lighting. If you're considering a design like this, there's only one question that really matters. What did it actually cost? Because a $349,000 luxury Barndominium sounds impressive until you discover what is and isn't included in that number. For this particular 4,800 square foot under roof concept, the major construction categories break down like this. The primary steel package and framing came to approximately $68,000. The foundation and radiant concrete slab, including the courtyard drainage basins, accounted for another $52,000. The custom glass and door systems surrounding the courtyards added approximately $44,000. Then came the less glamorous but absolutely critical infrastructure: subterranean drainage, waterproofing, and plumbing at roughly $18,000. Closed-cell spray foam insulation added another $22,000. And the largest category was the interior fit-out and finishes, at approximately $145,000. Add those categories together, and you reach roughly $349,000. That's approximately $73 per total square foot under roof. For the conditioned living area, the effective figure is closer to $115 per square foot. Now, that doesn't mean every 4,800 square foot double courtyard Barndominium will cost $349,000. Far from it. Site conditions, location, labor rates, permitting, engineering, utility connections, glazing packages, finishes, and countless other variables can move the final number dramatically. But the important lesson isn't the exact dollar amount. It's where the money was spent. Instead of spending heavily on complicated exterior architecture, the design keeps the main shell relatively simple. Then the budget gets concentrated where people actually experience the home. The courtyards, the glass, the interior finishes, and the spaces connecting everything together. That's the financial trick. Spend less on complexity that nobody notices, and more on the architectural moments everybody remembers. But there's still one question a spreadsheet can't answer. What does this place actually feel like to live in? A floor plan can tell you where the walls are. A budget can tell you what the house costs. But neither one tells you what happens when you actually live inside the design. Imagine waking up in the private bedroom wing. Instead of opening your curtains to a driveway, road, or neighboring property, the first thing you see is your own courtyard. Morning light hits the stone. Plants move in the breeze. The glass wall opens. And suddenly your bedroom doesn't feel like a room inside a giant metal building. It feels connected to a private garden. Walk toward the kitchen and the experience changes again. The social courtyard becomes the visual center of the house. On a quiet morning, it might simply bring daylight deep into the living space. During rain, it becomes something completely different. You can watch the weather move through the center of the home without standing outside in it. Then imagine having guests over. The glass walls surrounding the social courtyard slide open, and the boundary between the great room and the outdoor space almost disappears. People can move from the kitchen to the courtyard to the living room without ever feeling like they've left the main gathering space. But then something even more important happens. You walk away from the party, move through the transition gallery, enter the private wing, and the atmosphere changes almost instantly. The noise from the social spaces fades. The second courtyard becomes a quiet buffer between you and the rest of the house. That separation is the real luxury. Not another bedroom, not another 1,000 square feet. Privacy. The ability to be completely connected to the people you live with without being surrounded by them every minute of the day. And that's ultimately why this double courtyard concept is so interesting. It isn't simply a Barndominium with two gardens. It's a completely different way of organizing life inside a large open shell. The steel protects you from the outside world. The courtyards bring the outside world back in, on your terms. If you're planning a barndominium, there's a strange lesson this project reveals. Some of the features you might normally avoid can actually make your home better. Here are 3 things this double courtyard design teaches us. First, stop assuming every exterior wall needs windows. A blank exterior wall doesn't automatically make a home dark. In this design, the windows face inward toward protected courtyards instead. You get natural light, views of greenery, and privacy, without turning the outside of your home into a giant display window. Second, keep the expensive parts simple. The exterior of this barndominium doesn't need complicated roof lines, dozens of corners, or architectural gymnastics. Keep the main foundation and roof lines simple. Then put the interesting architecture inside the footprint. That's where the courtyards become powerful. You're spending money on spaces you actually experience instead of paying for complicated exterior geometry. And third, never treat drainage as an afterthought. This is probably the most important lesson of all. The moment you put an open-air courtyard inside a building, you've intentionally brought rainwater into the middle of your floor plan. That means waterproofing, flashing, grading, drainage, and backup systems aren't optional details. They're what keep a brilliant architectural idea from becoming an incredibly expensive mistake. So here's the question this entire experiment leaves us with. What if the future of the barndominium isn't about making the outside bigger, but making the inside smarter? This double courtyard design took an idea that was thousands of years old and gave it a completely modern purpose. Privacy without darkness, outdoor living without exposure, and architectural drama without turning the entire exterior into a complicated structure. But now I want to hear from you. Would you actually put an open-air garden in the middle of your barndominium? Or would you rather keep the entire building sealed and traditional? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you think this design was unusual, wait until you see what's coming next. In episode 15, we're heading into the mountains of North Carolina to look at a barndominium that appears to be floating over the edge of a mountain. The secret isn't magic. It's an O-shaped structural design that allows the home to cantilever dramatically over a steep ridge. And once you see how that shape works, you'll understand why the floor plan may be doing more of the structural work than you think. Subscribe to Barndo Dreams and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Dream big, build smart, and I'll see you in the next one.